Japan before the 19th century was an isolationist nation that had most of its warfare inside its own borders. It did have some outside ventures into Korea, but other than this, the Japanese people and nation stayed to themselves. But then, heading into the start of the 19th century, we see the attitude change in the government and people. They began to become a very imperialistic nation in such a short time. Now, why was this? Well, once the Western powers entered the Asian theater, they first dethroned the former superpower of the area, which was the Qing Empire. After seeing this mighty giant get weakened and pushed down to its knees by the Westerners, Japan needed to modernize and do it quickly if they wanted to compete with the outside world. And to modernize a nation needs resources such as oil, coal, iron ore, which Japan had none of. This cascade of events forces Japan to look outward for its own needs. When taking a look into the background of the rise of Japanese imperialism, we should first look at the decline of the Qing Empire, which historically was a big brother to the Japanese in the sense that the Japanese wanted to emulate their huge and powerful empire. When the British Empire was in India, they were getting lots of tea to sell back into the empire for large profits. Though, the East India Trading Company was giving over vast amounts of silver for the tea from China. So they were trying to find a way to get the tea for a better deal, and it was being looked for. It was then found with the bigger introduction of opium. Opium did wonders to speed up the decline of the Qing Empire, which made it easier for the British and other Western powers to come in and take advantage of the waning power. Watching their long admired empire be taken down another level so easily truly put fear into many Japanese government officials. Would they be able to fight against the Western powers, or would they also be brought to their knees? Well, they would find out very quickly when on July 8, 1853, American Commodore Matthew Perry led his 4 ships into the harbor at Tokyo Bay, seeking to reestablish for the first time in over 200 years regular trade and discourse between Japan and the Western world. This confirmed Japan's greatest fears. Perry sailed into Tokyo Bay and demanded trade to be opened. The Japanese could do nothing but accept what was offered. This moment here pushed the Japanese to rapidly change the way things were done in Japan, if they wanted to be able to protect themselves and develop a sphere of influence of their own. With the Japanese now being opened up to trade and the Western world, they needed to catch up to the rest of the world in terms of military and economic power. To do this, the Japanese needed many of the basic resources to be able to produce a base level economy that would be capable of funding and supplying a modern military. Coal, iron, oil are some of the basic resources needed to create things such as vehicles, trains, railroads, and many basic military equipment. This could be filled, though, with trade with other countries, but mostly the United States. This, of course, came with its own problems, in which the United States could easily cut off their trade of vital resources. If Japan did something that their trade partners did not like, those vital resources could be cut off, virtually killing their military and economy. And especially in the sense of military power, during this time, armies on the ground were getting much larger due to the advancement of firearms and other weapons, which allowed for many more less trained people to have the ability to do lots of damage with more advanced weapons. Not only talking about ground troops, the world had developed things such as tanks, planes, and more advanced naval boats, which of course consumed a great deal of resources that Japan just did not have. In the end, Japan was pushed into looking for resources to compete with the outside world. This led them to invading Korea, first looking for more land for food growth, and getting a foothold on the Asian mainland. This then helps the Japanese move into northern China, also known as Manchuria, in search for iron ore and coal to continue the expansion of their military. The invasion of Manchuria, however, was just the first of many invasions of China. And finally, the invasion of 1937 led to steel and oil to be banned from being exported to Japan from the United States. This of course pushes the Japanese down the resource path even further after the embargo from the United States. They then attacked Pearl Harbor and invaded Southeastern Asia for oil, rubber, and among other resources to continue the war effort. But in the end, their need for invading countries for their resources ultimately led to them needing more resources in a never-ending cycle in which leads to their ultimate defeat in World War II.